All right. This first news story comes to us from Darren Bonthus over at GameSpot. They write, Redfall will not have 60 FPS mode at launch on Xbox. Performance mode will be added in a later update to the co-op vampire hunting game. Redfall developer Arcane Austin has confirmed that its upcoming vampire hunting adventure will launch with quality mode only on Xbox Series X and S, with a performance mode option arriving later in an update. This means that the game will be hard locked to 30 FPS as a high resolution is prioritized, which on Xbox Series X will be 4K and on Xbox Series S is 1440p. While many modern console games usually feature the option to toggle between quality or performance games when they launch, Redfall is one of the exceptions to this rule. Last year, Gotham Knights also launched with only a quality mode option on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, and in 2023, its frame rate is still capped at 30 FPS on console. Deathloop, which was developed by Arcane Line, did launch with quality and performance modes on PS5, and it retained those options for its Xbox Series X and S launch a year later. For fast-paced shooters, performance mode is generally favored, but the sheer scope of the sandbox that Redfall takes place in could be one of the reasons why resolution is being favored over frame rate. In the previous interview, creative director Harvey Smith also mentioned that the game was developed under challenging COVID-19 pandemic challenges and frequent power outages. Where do they live?
Okay, dude.
Wait. Where's the
studio
eventually
people are gonna have to like hang the COVID excuse up.
Yeah, COVID was 3 years ago now. Come on.
Well, look, it's still here. Don't get me wrong. It's just severely not as like prominent, I would say.
What I mean is like it's 3 years later. We should have things figured out on how to work in these conditions now. You know.
Right.
Also, Arcane Lion is based in Lyon, France. Why is there frequent power outages in France? What kind of third world country are they living in over there?
They've been having the riots and whatnot lately.
Really?
Yeah.
How have you ever heard about that? This? No.
The government like tried to raise the retirement age, and that was the thing that like sent people over the edge, and it's been chaos over there ever since.
Jeez. I don't know how I missed that. Usually I try to keep up.
Well, there's a reason
world
you
news,
missed that. They don't broadcast that over here because they don't want us getting ideas.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay. All right. Well, I was going to say, I was like, what do they talk? Like, there's this article. If they're like, oh yeah, between COVID and the power outages. I'm like, what are you talking about?
But however, that only started happening in the last maybe month and a half, 2 months. So they're just looking for anything that. The power outages. COVID. Yeah.
My dog died 6 years ago. I'm emotionally scarred. With launch day fast approaching, more details on Redfall have begun to emerge. Arcane has confirmed that the co-op vampire shooter will launch with the anti-piracy tool Denuvo on PC, and right now, you can enter a sweepstakes to win a custom Redfall Xbox Series X console. Oh, gee, thanks, GameSpot. I think that's pretty much it on the article here. So, here's the deal. I've seen a lot of discourse online talking about, well, initially it was like, this game needs to get delayed. Like, if they can't put out a finished product, it should be delayed. And at first I'm like, over a 6, like, is that, it's wild that it doesn't have the performance mode to me, but it doesn't seem delay worthy for me. But then some of the other arguments I started seeing online, without reading all these articles for you guys, they're going to give you the rundown of the TLDR. A lot of people are also concerned about the release window for this game being, what did I say? I don't even think this article said. Just keep saying soon. Sometime in May. It's coming out in May at some time. For some reason, this article does not mention when. But it's right around, literally, like within days of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Jedi, this new Star Wars Jedi Survivor game. And I think there's one other one. There's like three or four games all coming out around the same time. And people are like those other ones are known quantities. People love Star Wars. People love, like, these are both games that people are ravenously been waiting for. Redfall is a new IP, a new franchise. And now with the bad news we've been hearing as far as like what features might be at launch, Is that a reason for them to delay this game? And so, Adrian, that's what I'm going to ask you. Do you think that is delay worthy, or yes, no, maybe a little bit, kind of? What do you think?
So in the sense that if we're looking at it in the lens of other stuff is coming out around that time, I don't think so, because I don't think that the audience for Redfall overlaps very much with something like a Zelda or or a Jedi Survivor. I mean, you may have, of course, you're going to have some, people that play everything, but I don't think they would have had any trouble getting some kind of momentum going. I don't know. I don't think it's that. I don't think that's the reason that I think it's a convenient reason that they would move the date, but I think it's due to the performance issues, which is crazy to me that a Series X, which is touted as the most powerful console in the world, cannot run this game at 60 frames a second.
Yeah, it seems kind of wild to me, because I mean, what that tells me then is that Xbox either I wonder if in development they focused more on the PC version than the Xbox version. So because that's the thing with the article. The article is only specifically says it's capped on Xbox. So on PC, if you play on, which I will be playing on PC because I don't have an Xbox, it should be uncapped. But I wonder if that's a limitation of like, oh yeah, well yeah, we just developed this game on PC and for whatever reason it was an afterthought to optimize it for Xbox Series X. But even that doesn't make sense, because the Xbox Series X should be on par with like
at least what, a 2080, maybe a 3060,
if not higher. Like I'm kind of curious. Maybe I'll Google it here real quick, but I'm curious like what it's on par with. Like
I think normally I would say it's at least like a 3060 at this point, a GTX 3060. But I mean, I know Xbox's their focus now is on Game Pass, right? That's what they want to do. But if that's the case, you can't completely have studios divert their attention from the hardware. The hardware is already out there. You can't take it back. Mm-hmm. And that's also another thing that I wanted to talk about is I've seen people be like, "Oh, it's not the S that's holding it back," but what else could it be?
Yeah.
Right? This game is PC. It's only for PC and the series consoles, right? Yep. So it's not for Xbox One.
Yep.
And these are touted as current gen consoles. So if it runs well on PC, but not on the console, and they have to develop for both of them, you always develop for the lowest common denominator, and that's the Series S.
But they've been in the past. What they've done is they've just had different you
would just downscale it,
right? They just have for the Series S it only tops out at this, and the Series in the past they've developed so each console can play at their maximal potential. Where with this game they're like, oh yeah, they've done the opposite. Instead of gearing each version to its maximum potential, they're like, we're just going to downscale all of them to its lowest common denominator. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense.
Which is crazy. Yeah, exactly. Because, okay, if that's the case, so you're telling me the Series S can't run this game at 1080-60 is what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Because the Series S should run it at 1080-60, and then the Series X should run it at 1440-60.
Yeah, at the very least.
So that okay, if that's the case, then it's the team.
Yeah,
it's the development cycle. They can't, for some kind of hardware or some kind of bottleneck somewhere is not letting them optimize it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the side I think I'm coming down on is it's definitely it's the process in which they develop the game, because other games have done it just fine. Not that Xbox has very many games out, mind you. Over the last 3 years that the consoles have been out, they don't have much to show for it. But the ones that they have put out have worked to the best of their ability on the Series S, the best of their ability on the Series X, and the best of their ability on PC. This is the first one where they're like, well, actually, it's not going to be, it's right now, it's all going to kind of run at one level. And then in a few months, we'll be able to give you those. It's like, no, wait a second. Like, what's going on here?
A few months.
I mean, they didn't say a few months. They said at a future date, which
is a few months in development time, at least.
Yeah, I could see it being like 1 or 2 months at the least, if not longer. But I don't know. I just keep having flashbacks to like Cyberpunk when they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, and then it's like 6 months later, they're like, all right, here's a new roadmap, and they just had to like start over. I don't understand how I feel like isn't quality mode the more strenuous of the two on the hardware? Like a game putting out 4K, isn't that more difficult than lower quality? Not necessarily.
Higher frame rate?
I would say they're equal amount of power, just in different ways. One is focused on making the resolution better, and one is focused on making the frame rate better. So it's not that one is working harder or like using more power than the other. That's the other. Yeah, you're right. That is the other weird thing, is like they've done the optimization for quality, and it's like they just ran out of time for performance optimization, which is like that.
But how are you?
Should have been. Their priority with this game is that it looks pretty and doesn't necessarily feel good.
Which is a grave mistake for a shooter.
Yeah, especially a co-op. I guess it's not a competitive shooter, so maybe that's what they were thinking going into it. Like, it's a shooter, but it's like people.
I still have to be able to react. Right, I still need to be able to react in time, and in 30 frames a second. Granted, I can make it work.
Yeah, I mean, we've been making it work for years on console at 30 FPS, but
right. But I really felt like this was the cutoff to where we should at least have 60 frames a second. That's been across the board.
The big selling point of this whole console generation is that the hard drives are faster, the graphics are better, the frame rates are better, like everything is better like than previous. So the fact that we're getting this game and it's like, oh well, this is no better than what the Xbox One X was doing then. Right. The One X could do 4K 30. Like,
the One X could probably run this at 1080 60. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So it just seems weird for like such a big marketing push, and then for them to like put out a game and be like, oh, it's coming, just not yet. It's like, again, that's the other.
Well, they have to get this out the door because they don't really have anything else until Starfield, right? At this point,
that's what's so bizarre to me about Xbox, and we always talk about it. Like it inevitably comes up at some point, but I just don't understand what they're doing over there with all their studios, and they just got like nothing going on. Like we were even talking about it in Discord there for a bit. Where was that?
I said that what I've been saying the same thing. I said it in Discord too. I can't, in good conscience, at this point in time, recommend somebody to get an Xbox.
Yeah. Okay. So you're like you had said. My big question is, why is Microsoft pushing these games out the door when they're in such an unfinished state? Sets a bad precedent for game development, as Microsoft Game Studios is concerned, puts a bad image on themselves. And then, what you just said about not recommending it. Chaz Cheeto came back and said it's weird that they own more studios than Sony and yet put out fewer games in a consistently worse state. And it's true. Like,
right.
They're trying. They have way more studios, which mean
they should have, with the amount of studios they have, they should have a game coming out
like every 3 months.
Once a month.
At least, yeah. It's crazy. And they have nothing coming out. And when they do come out, like, they're not good.
It's bad. It's either bad quality or badly running.
Exactly. Or story-wise, like something is janky about it. It's never right. But he did mentioned that because he was talking about, he referred to Arcane Lion specifically. He's like, well, they put out before Redfall, they put out Prey and Deathloop, and I was like, well, Deathloop was a PlayStation 5 exclusive, so since Microsoft has acquired Bethesda and ergo Arcane here, like, yeah, like they haven't done anything. Like they haven't put out any games. So
when they were,
it's been years. When did Deathloop come out? That was like
2021.
Was it just 2 years ago? Okay,
I think so. But yeah, that was back when the ink wasn't really dry yet on the Xbox Bethesda thing, or have they been rolling for a minute together now?
They I think they
I feel like it was 2019.
Was it 2019 or was it like 20? It might have been the end of 2019, and it came into play the beginning of 2020. Is when it like officially like went through,
right?
Whatever, but
so that was before Xbox got involved.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's wild. Like there's not been much going on over at Arcane, and then even since Xbox picked him up, like nothing happening. Nothing in general. It's just sad. It's really sad. Like there's just so many.
It was 2020 and finalized in 2021.
Okay. So
the Bethesda acquisition.
Pretty recent. Yeah.
But this game should have been in pre-production at that time. Or it should have been in production at that time.
Yeah, it's hard to know. They haven't really released those details, but you would think there'd be, would have been some sort of like pre-production stuff going on at that point. If for the game to be coming out now.
Right. And we don't know how long the development cycle was on Prey either.
Right.
Prey and Deathloop. They could have had multiple years to cook those while Bethesda was doing other stuff, or ZeniMax was doing other stuff with other studios. So maybe this is an accelerated crunch development window for them, which results in a worse product. But again, that goes back to what I was saying, is that doesn't look good for Microsoft, because that means they're promoting that kind of a work environment, which is not cool.
The fact that the previous games have been high quality and now this one's coming out. And again, this one might come out and be an awesome game, but the fact that those features are missing, it's just like, oh, what is going on?
This is standard at this point.
Yeah.
When consoles come out and they tout power, that's when I really scrutinize them on it. I know we talk about, for example, we talk about the Switch being like really old hardware, but Nintendo these days, they don't play on power, right? If you come out and you tell me that this is the most powerful console we've ever made and it's the most powerful console on earth, I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah. If they didn't say anything, then we wouldn't care.
I would have let it go.
Right, whatever, sure. But now
you're telling me,
that's what all their marketing hinges on, is like, we're the most powerful console. They're like,
it does 4K 120. Where? One game? Forza?
Sometimes.
You wanted me to pay $500 to experience one game at 4K 120? Okay.
Oh man.
Wild. So when you tout power, that's when I scrutinize.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're selling me on. Because if I don't get what you exactly, you deserve it. If I don't get what you promised, what are we doing here?
So I did find that the Xbox Series X GPU is the equivalent to RTX 3060.
Yeah, that's what I was figuring.
So it's not necessarily like the most powerful card, but I mean it
should handle 1440 easy though.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that 3060, from what I understand, so that's like a step below. I have a 3070. So the 3060, like, can probably play most games at 1440, like on high or ultra settings kind of thing. So,
right.
So, which but it's not a 1-to-1 comparison, because obviously Xbox custom makes their GPUs and custom makes their CPUs to work way more efficiently than a PC. So technically the Xbox should actually, even though the equivalent is a 36er, it should actually be a little bit better,
right,
if you think about it. So,
which makes it even less acceptable then.
Yeah, right. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a scientist, so if I'm wrong, I'm sure there'll be people in the comments calling me an idiot.
But if the equivalent of that is even if you could say, oh well, maybe it's underclocked because it's trying not to draw as much power as a PC does for a 3060. I guess, okay, but I don't know. There's nothing you can really say when there's 4K on the box. Okay.
Yeah. If you're gonna
when there's
put
4K 120 on the box.
Or I don't have my PS5 box. Doesn't the PS5 box say
The PS
8K on it?
Yes.
It says 8K.
What
I'm
is
like,
going
what
to
is
be 8K?
there? First
8K
of all,
what? 15 frames a second? Stop it.
First of all, there's no 8K games, and secondly, like there's no TVs to display.
A 4090 is
game.
not doing 8K.
I love
Get
that.
out of here.
When it says 8K on the box, like, what are you talking about? What are you smoking over there, Sony?
Maybe the menu. Maybe the menu's going to be in 8K.
Those particles looking real good floating around in the background.
Are there even very many 8K TVs right now?
No, that's
there's
thing.
probably less
like,
than 10.
Like, unless you're looking to spend like $5,000 on a TV, I'm like, no.
With a terrible refresh rate.
Yeah, man.
But no. Yeah. So I think that.
So should this get delayed though? Like that's
yes,
yeah,
absolutely. And I don't think it's to get out of the way of the other games. I think it's because they need more time. Because this game is not. It needs more time to cook.
To me, the 60 FPS thing isn't a big deal, but I guess what I infer from reading this and getting this news is that there's other things that also might have issues that they're not telling us.
Yeah.
And so
I agree.
So I'm kind of with you. Like, yeah, let's delay it. Because if these are the types of things you're leaving out, what else is also getting left out or getting swept under the rug or like, we'll fix it later as well that they're not saying or that they don't know about even. Like maybe there's some funky bugs and stuff. It's like, oh man, like should just
see.
Like they you know, if they just delayed the Suicide Squad game for like the 7th time or whatever, the 6th time.
That I'm glad about. That needed to be delayed,
and they pushed it a full year. They're like,
yeah,
next spring.
Push it to. Push it to.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, like if they can delay the game like 7 times, I think Redfall could. Have they done it once already or no?
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, so like. What's one more time? At least it's not.
But
6,
here's the thing, though. If I've said this before. I've said it. You know, I've beat this drum to death. But it's still true. If I'm an Xbox gamer, what am I doing? I'm furious right now. What am I playing right now?
Yeah. What did I spend $500 for? Xbox?
What? Yeah, $300 to $500. What did I spend it for? I could have put that money towards a PC and played everything.
Right.
So
and gotten my 60 FPS out of it.
No problem. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. And I hate saying that too, because I really want to see Xbox succeed. And I know they are, you know, through Game Pass, but I think if they're gonna focus on Game Pass and don't make hardware anymore.
Don't make hardware or yeah, I don't know. What I was going to say is like, because the issue here isn't necessarily because the hardware is capable of it. In this case, the game is not capable of it. The hardware is, the game is not, which is telling me that maybe they need to back off of the software part of it and like focus on Game Pass. And you know what? Maybe you don't make as many games and have as many studios. And maybe, you know,
they can't do that. They just spent $70 billion.
I know. They've kind of gone too far. It's point of no return at this point. But it's like they have all these studios and they're just making trash. Like, why not? Yeah, if you're going to focus on Game Pass, focus on this. Just let Game Pass be a place to curate other people's games,
right?
Make money off of that. You know,
and then just sell the hardware to play them. And then,
like, if you're not willing to make quality games yourself, let other people make them. Because at this point, you're acquiring incredible studios and then like downgrading them. Like all these studios that are known for making killer games are putting out now mediocre games, and it's like, oh, this is sad. Like they were so good before. I don't know.
And how long is this fabled turnaround period supposed to be? Because they've been on the path of, oh, we're gonna right the ship, oh, we're gonna make it, you know, better, ever since the Xbox One came out and they realized that people don't want what they were selling at the time. Yeah. And I feel like the whole Xbox One generation was a recovery period, you know, to try to right the ship. You know, they took away all the always online stuff. They brought out the Series X to kind of really put some power there.
Got rid of the Kinect.
And nothing really major came out of that generation for Xbox, right? That people go, oh man, remember X, Y, and Z game? People don't do that about Xbox One. Really?
Yeah, no.
And now here we are almost 10 years later. We have a whole new set of consoles. We have Game Pass. And I don't hear anybody outside of, at this point, maybe Hi-Fi Rush being like, oh man, you know what? That so-and-so Xbox game is absolutely killer, man. Maybe Forza, but Forza and Hi-Fi Rush, that's 2 games though.
Yeah. No,
everything else is mediocre.
Yeah, it's wild, really.
You need a 10-year recovery period?
Yeah, the ship should be righted by now. Like, there's no reason why it shouldn't be. Except for that, they just have too many too many things they're trying to like keep track of. Too many, what's the phrase? Like, they got too many plates spinning right now. They're trying to spin too many plates, and they're just like, some are falling and breaking. It's like, just put them down. Just let's focus on what your essentials here. But make yourself a console so that way you can compete with PlayStation. And if you really are gonna stick with Game Pass, focus on Game Pass then, and let some of the studios go, and that way they can continue to make games and put them on Game Pass.
Well, what's crazy is the Bethesda. It seems like it pales in comparison now, but the Bethesda acquisition is actually pretty huge with the amount of studios that they have under their belt.
It was massive.
Yeah. And they didn't even really give that enough time to kind of settle in. Right? It only finalized in 2021, and then we got news in 2022, the next year, that they were doing a deal 10 times as big.
Right. Yeah, they had that's barely enough time to even get like leadership in place and train, like get everything, like let the dust settle. The dust wasn't even settled yet on that, and they're like, all right, bring in Activision Blizzard. It's like, wait a second.
Whoa, hold on. Bethesda hasn't even, they're still moving their stuff in.
Yeah, there's still U-Hauls out front.
Right.
Man. Yeah.
I don't know who else was anybody in the running to buy Activision at that time?
Not that I've heard.
Because I don't think there's very many people who are willing to spend $70 billion.
No, I can't think of anyone else who could have other than Sony. But I don't think Sony was interested, because why? All those games come to PlayStation anyways. So.
I heard that there was like, this was the perfect time to pounce on Activision because their stock was really low right then, because they had all those allegations and stuff and about the harassment and stuff going on.
Yeah,
so this was the best time to buy them. But if you had already intended to buy them, and you were pretty sure that nobody else has that kind of capital rolling around, just, offhand to willy-nilly throw, you should have just waited. You should have waited until Bethesda was settled and in place.
Yeah.
And then, maybe go after Activision. Because I don't know how you benefit from this.
Yeah. I mean, it's just prolonging. It's not prolonging. It's just extending how long the recovery is going to take. Like, they've had these 2 huge transitions, and it's like they have not had a chance to like really figure out, okay, what does this actually look like? And so what was going to take let's just hypothetically say, it was going to take 2 years for things to settle with Bethesda before they brought in Activision. Well, now they brought in Activision Blizzard. It's not like it adds like another 2 years to that process. Now it's almost like exponentially like, okay, now it could be the next 6 years they're still like trying to work this stuff out, Because now they're not only trying to deal with Bethesda and make sure they're 100% rolling and going, but then they're also in the middle of, Activision Blizzard deal hasn't even gone through yet, but technically, so they're not working with the studios, but there's a lot of energy and time just going towards like the acquisition process, because it's been hell for them. It's been horrible. So it's like, man, oh man, like,
not to mention all the red tape with regulators that they're going to have to go through even after the acquisition is done, to make sure that they do what they say they're going to do in the the court trials.
Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't imagine being over there right now. It's just probably a madhouse is what it sounds like.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much for watching that clip from our podcast. Remember, if you want to watch the whole episode, the full episode, link will be in the description below. You can click on that and check it out. We got listener questions. We got more news segments. We got what you playing. We got a lot of fun things. So yeah, more than just the news. There's a lot more to the show that you should go check out. So remember, click that link in the description. Check out that full episode.